Andrew, before we get to it, though, I have a bone to pick with you.
Oh, no. What did I do? Oh, I think I know what I did. But John, tell me, what did I do?
I say, Andrew, you are in charge of the Knicks Film School brand. You feel free to clip whatever you want to clip and disperse it on Twitter as you see fit. And sure enough, there I am today. I'm like, taking my usual 5-minute stroll through the old feed, and I see what is going on. Twitter has been lit ablaze by something I said, apparently. me. That I said.
What did you say, John?
Well, no, I mean, I don't want to rehash it, but basically when I kind of lost my shit for a minute after the Sixers game, when someone, had the audacity, right, to question, I don't even remember what the person said. Tibbs is genuinely alarming me with his rotations and minutes distribution. Look, people, I don't, what the fuck do you want the man to do? The man just won Coach of the Year. We have to get off of this as a fan base because we sound like fucking assholes. We sound like assholes.
First of all, shout out to the super chat. We are greatly appreciative.
We are.
Understand that you enter the lion's den, you might get bit at times, and that the freedom to disagree with people who donate in the super chat is something we hold dear as well. So while we appreciate your contribution, we also have to react naturally, or else it's just not real. So
what's the opposite of disingenuous? It's not genuine.
Genuine. Yeah. It's not genuine. So as a result, all that caveat to say that the question, or I guess the comment, was that it was about Obi not playing enough in the minutes distribution. And the commenter said, Tibbs is it's slowly alarming.
That's
Tibbs'
right.
Minutes, rotation, and distribution.
Yeah.
And you were like, because this has also been a theme that people are upset with the minutes distribution as overall.
So it's funny. I had a busy day. I genuinely didn't even watch whatever you put out. I knew what you put out, but I didn't watch the whole thing. And I didn't realize what the comment was, which is why I just asked you about it. That makes a lot of sense because, and here's what's interesting. Guess who criticized Tibbs earlier this year?
That would be you.
That would be this guy. Yes. And my critique it was in the spur of the moment during the, during the first Magic game, right? When he left Julius Randle in with like, whatever it was, 4 minutes and change to go. And he got a flagrant foul or a flagrant foul was committed against him. And I tweeted out, I don't think there's any reason for Julius Randle to be in the game right now, which is ostensibly a criticism of the head coach. I guess and I do think it's okay to criticize. And I actually think it's healthy to criticize, which is why for as much as I screw around with him, like Schwinn, I love what Schwinn does. And Schwinn, Schwinn's kind of made a cottage industry of this with the Strickland. And it is good and it is healthy because guess what? Like Jeff Van Gundy, what did he come on here and say about when I questioned him?
Tibbs be Tibbs, yeah.
Well, no, he said, I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
When I asked him about a lineup decision he had made in his first game as Knicks coach, and he was like, it was stupid then and it's stupid now. Like coaches fuck up. And it's like us as fans recognize it's okay. Like it's things we recognize are indeed things that a coach in his private moments, Tom Thibodeau included, might be like, yeah, you know what? I maybe like to have that back. I think the reason why it set me off the edge is I think there was a way to go about doing it. And then there was a way, whatever the way it was phrased,
it was genuinely alarming.
Genuinely alarming.
Followed up a comment about comparing Elfrid Payton's stats to Kemba Walker's stats and why is Kemba playing. So, so it was like it was surprising that you were doing this all after a victory, which here's, and I hope this doesn't come off as wishy-washy, but this is genuinely how I feel. I think, and this isn't just go for coaching an NBA team. I think this goes for almost any profession. Like it is healthy to question and critique. It keeps people on their toes. It keeps them being good at what they do. But I do think there is a modicum of respect. And I don't mean that in terms of like, this person is an NBA coach, thus we must, they kiss their feet and worship the ground they walk on. I mean, like if there is proof of concept, and like, for instance, with David Fizdale, there was no proof of concept because he came in, he started losing a bunch of games and then he lost a bunch more games. Then he got fired. Right. And like, but if you get a guy who has come in
and he has shown proof of concept. And it's like, okay, there is a method to this madness, and you may not understand it, and you may not see everything that I see, but there's a reason why the Knicks did what they did last year after the expectations that they had. And I think once you get over that hump, while it's okay to question, and God knows, like, again, we're recording this episode before they play the Bucks tonight.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night is, but by the time you hear this tonight.
Oh, true.
So, New Orleans and Will may be out. Mitchell Robinson may be out. If Obi Toppin plays 11 or 12 minutes, I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to want to see him more. And if he doesn't play more and they lose after the game, I'm sure I'm going to be like, I wonder what would have happened if he played more. I think it's okay to actively wonder, but for me, I guess the notion of like, we're 11 games into a season that we're 7-4, coming off the season that we just had, on a guy that's like widely acknowledged to be, if not one of the best coaches in the league, certainly the hardest worker, and a guy who literally he makes his bones by living, breathing, eating, sleeping, pissing, shitting this stuff every day of the week. And to think that like there's not more behind it, I guess that to me is where like the casual dismissal of like, oh, clearly this person has no idea what they're doing, they're wrong. That to me is where that's like the breaking point for me. And I don't know what it is about my personality. Maybe it's just like I was raised to have that's what
I was telling you before we started recording. The psychoanalysis of why you're like that. You've told me from the beginning that there's an authority thing that you just don't like questioning authority. Probably why you're a teacher, probably why you stopped being a lawyer. There's a thing to it that I've admired. And as somebody who grew up on, I think this is part of New York's identity and DNA as well. Someone who grew up on the Beningos and the Franceses and the Russos that questioned every single head coaching decision for 20 years of my life. It's something I've had to let go because these guys are entertainers. They're talking heads. They didn't always know more than the head coaches. And it's something that while you can, like you said, criticize, like we went through an entire season last year of why is he starting Elfrid Payton, but recognizing we're not here without Tibbs. So it's not that we don't think he could be better, but that there is a respect we have to give to the guy that's gotten us here.
And if I'm being completely honest, like, I don't know how many people listening know this, like I practiced law for 5 years, and to do that, I went to law school for 3 years. And like, I can't think of how many times that I would be in my office discussing a case with someone where someone would be like, oh, well, you should do this, or like, this is how we should approach this. And I'd be like, well, no. And I try to explain as best I could, but you can't really explain because again, they don't have the knowledge base that they're not even equipped to have that conversation. And quite frankly, I have better shit to do with my time than explain to you how I'm going to. And again, that's just one perspective of one person. But I think in general, when there are professions out there in the world that require a certain amount of man hours to even get to the point where you're allowed to do the thing. And then there's exponentially more hours that are required for you to rise to the top of that profession. For people who are not privy to what is entailed in those hours upon hours upon hours, to come in and basically say, this person doesn't know what they're doing. I know better. That to me is, call it a respect for authority, call it whatever you want, is where I kind of have to draw the line. To say nothing of the fact that it's the Knicks. They've been a dumpster fire for 20 years. We're 7-4. Maybe just fucking, be okay with where we're at.
Well, did you hear what Tibbs' reasoning was?
No, I didn't.
So he mentioned last night, I forget who asked the question, but he said that when he goes to Obi and Randall lineups, that it's never Obi at the 5. He puts Randall at the 5. And as a result, Randall's asked to do a lot more, body banging down
defensively,
defensively. And it takes a lot out of him. And he prefers to leave Randall at the 4 where he's guarding stretch 4s or traditional power forwards. And as a result, he would rather not drain him at the other end of the floor. And as great as Obi's been so far, there are 3 other centers on the roster. Now, tonight there might be an opportunity for Obi to play. The distribution of 11 to 38 may not be the thing we love the most, but I, at least after hearing that, was like, okay, so Tibbs would rather not drain his best player, his all NBA player that's gotten here most of the time, and likes to depend on him more than anything else.
Sure. And like, I'm not saying that Tibbs is like lying, but like, I take everything Tibbs says with many grains of salt. I think he's really smart. I think he knows the thing that he could say, as do you. I know. But
like, even if that isn't the real, it's an answer. I get it. It's like, okay, yes, I can accept that as an answer, even if I might think that Obi should play more than 11 minutes, But
I guess here's my point is like, even if Tibbs' real reason was like, you know what? I don't fucking trust the kid. He has to earn it based on X, Y, and Z. If that in his expert estimation is like his reasoning, it's like, I'll respect that. I may not agree with it, but I'll respect it. And then that gets into other issues. Well, they just made a coaching analytics hire. Like, where does that play it? Like, him playing nicely with that arm in the organization, that's a whole nother conversation. I do think it's very important. But again, this gets into all kinds of different tentacles of other discussions.
But I actually do like the pipeline the Knicks have created, because it's not. Me too. It's not like we drafted kid, he plays automatically. We drafted kid, he's put like, I really think that was a disservice to the Kevin Knoxes and the Frank Ntilikina's and some of the younger guys that needed a developmental system that we've seen work elsewhere. Jordan Poole is in year 3 with Golden State. And now we're starting
accountability.
To see, right. So I like that Grimes has to earn his way into the rotation. I like that Deuce is going to have to earn his way behind Derrick Rose and Kemba Walker. Not like if the Knicks were destined for 15 wins, fine, play them. But then whatever savior you think is coming in the draft is going to show up to a 15-win team with nobody around him. And I like that the Knicks have actually created like a mini minor leagues within their organization where guys are developed properly.
Which, by the way, is not easy to do. And very few organizations get it right. And the ones that do get it right tend to be really successful. And I'm still very admirous. I don't know if that's the right word. Envious of places like Toronto, who I think Toronto does it better than anyone. Spurs, we'll see where they're at. But like,
I'll say it. Miami, for all as much as I hate heat culture, they're still the poster child of development and whatnot. So I got to give them credit that way.
They took Duncan Robinson and they turned him into a player that I wanted to pay $100. How many million?
I'm sure we'll get into this more on the Patreon pod, but did you see what happened with Jokic and Morris last night? Oh, we'll talk about it on the Patreon pod, but it's what I live for with like the return of 90s basketball. And it's also hilarious to see Miami Heat fans that like opine for Udonis Haslem being the 12th man on the roster and taking up a spot. And then the moment he was there for like this, where he still doesn't leave the bench or do anything. And it's just a lot of talking. It is actually hilarious,
Hashtag heat culture.